Welcome to a new episode of Morgana Radio, where I, your host, Morgana Ray, interview the world's most fascinating thought leaders on money, love, and magic. And you are in for such a treat. Oh my God. If you don't already know who Amy Ahlers is, you are going to fall in love. So let me tell you a little bit about Amy, the official stuff, and then my personal stuff. So Amy Ahlers is the Wake Up Call coach. She is the best-selling author of Big Fat Lies Women Tell Themselves and Reform Your Inner Mean Girl, 7 Steps to Stop Bullying Yourself and Start Loving Yourself. Amy is on a mission to stop women and mamas from being so darn hard on themselves. She's been a certified life coach for over 16 years, and I can witness that directly because Amy and I know each other from coaching school back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Back when people were like, Coach, what's that?
Exactly. Exactly.
It was so much harder then. So Amy is the co-creator of transformational programs such as Inner Mean Girl Reform School.
That's right.
Find Your Calling and Visionary Ignition Switch. Amy has been featured on lots of TV and radio shows. She leads virtual and in-person retreats for women around the world so that they can cultivate the courage to follow their own inner wisdom.
Yes.
Amy is passionate about helping soulful mamas embrace the messiness and magic of motherhood in her truth-telling community, Mama Truth Circle. And she has a new and notable podcast of her own, the Mama Truth Show. So, if you're listening to this, as soon as you're done, go and subscribe to Mama Truth Show. One of the things I love about Amy is her willingness in this world where many gurus like to pretend everything is perfect. No.
No. Not my thing, Morgana.
Mine either. Permission to be human, please. So you can often find Amy holding hands with the love of her life, Rob, as they chase after their daughters, Annabella and Evie Rose. Nice names.
Thank you.
She resides in the San Francisco Bay Area with her family and rescue mutt Batman. So today's topic is get your inner mean girl out of your way and create magic. And the big learning points are that we all have inner critics, inner mean girls, even guys.
Yep.
Right. Okay. She's going to teach us the key to reforming your inner mean girl. She is going to make sure your inner wisdom is making your decisions. And also she's going to teach you where to go when you're in doubt.
Yes.
So, yay! Welcome, Amy.
Oh, thank you so much, sweetheart. It's wonderful to be here. I've been seeing your show popping up everywhere, and it's just so fun to now be a guest. So thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So let's dive right in. What is this inner mean girl thing?
Yes. Well, it's so funny. I was on a hike years and years ago, and before my first book, Big Fat Lies Women Tell Themselves, I was actually on deadline for that book with my publisher. And I was having, I thought it was so ironic that I was teaching all about how hard we are on ourselves and how to get that inner critic out of your head. And of course, I was completely beating myself up at the same time because I teach what I most need to learn myself. And so on that hike one day, I was with my friend Christina Rilo, who's another amazing coach. And she said, Amy, it's almost like you have an inner mean girl. Because so often we think about the mean girls like lurking in the hallways of junior high and the mean girls at the PTA meeting or, in the carpool pickup line when you're there. But really the meanest one of them all is the one inside our heads. Yep, that's it. And so that really has become a huge part of what I'm here to teach and what I'm here to really inspire is for women and moms to stop being so hard on themselves and to really look at that voice inside their head that is sabotaging them, is putting pressure on them, is telling them that they are not enough, to put that voice to the side, reform her, love her into a new job, and really listen to that inner wisdom voice instead.
Oh, beautiful. By the way, those of you listening on iTunes, Amy and I make a lot of faces when we talk with our hands a lot. So so what you're missing visually, you can come to morganaradio.com and see what we really look like and also directly get links that we may refer to during the course of the show. So that's girls have inner mean girls, and you said guys have their own.
Oh yes.
Too?
Oh yes. My husband and my father both always tell me all of this applies to us as well. And I'm like, of course, having an inner critic, having a saboteur, the gremlin, right? We used to call it the gremlin back in the days when we were in coaching school in Morgana. But it's like having that voice inside your head is part of the human experience. And being a mom to my oldest Annabella is 8.5. My youngest Evie Rose is 2. And so it's been very interesting because my 2-year-old, she does not have an inner critic yet. You do not, like, she is just fully present in the moment, like walking around with her little body, doing her thing, strutting her stuff. Whereas my 8.5-year-old does have an inner mean girl. She's named it. And actually, I will say, those of you that do the visual in the book that Christine and I wrote together, we have a Hall of Fame in the back of the book because one of the things that we like people to do is draw their inner critics. And my daughter, Annabella, this is her inner critic right here. Monstrous Minley is her name. This is her inner mean girl.
Yeah. So
Yes.
those of you listening in, Amy just opened up her book and showed a drawing of her daughter's inner mean
girl. Yes. Yes.
So cool.
I know it's so fascinating because they say in the development of the human psyche that up until we're around 6 years old, somewhere in like the 6 to 7 year old range, we're just present. We're in the moment. We actually don't have a stream of consciousness going on in our heads. And then somewhere around age 6 or 7, the development of the inner critic comes into play. And that is when we start having these voices in our heads that are sabotaging us, that are telling us that we're not enough, that are making up stories that are making us feel like crap. And so it's been so fascinating as a mom to watch that actually occur with Annabella, because for a while I'd say like, well, do you ever have a voice in your head that says nice things? And she'd look at me like I had 2 heads. She's like, what are you talking about? And then it was like, boom. Yes, she did know what that was. And it became a whole different experience for her in the world. So everyone listening, just know you are not alone. We all have them, whether you're a man or a woman, no matter what age you are, what socioeconomic background, it is a common human experience.
Wow. I never knew that about the 6 or 7 year old timeline, but I'm thinking back on my childhood and that makes sense.
Yeah.
So are there different kinds of inner mean girls?
There are. One of the things that Christine and I started doing in our work, we started Inner Mean Girl Reform School 6 years ago now, actually. And it started with a small teleclass. And we started kind of talking about these different types of inner mean girls. And we ended up discovering 13 distinct archetypes of inner mean girls. Because here's the thing that's tricky. Not all inner mean girls are overtly mean. Some of them are sneaky. Like one of the archetypes is the achievement junkie, for example. This one's very sneaky because a lot of, high achieving, high powered women have, and guys out there too, listen, I'm telling you, that achievement junkie can be yours too, where it's like achievement no matter what the cost. And we love achievement. We love ambition. We love it. But it's the junkie part. It's that addiction part where it's so addictive that it wreaks havoc over all the other areas of your life. That inner mean girl archetype is really tricky and can be really hard for people to loosen the grip of, because we want them to be successful in their life, but we also want them to celebrate. So that, that's one of the archetypes, that achievement junkie. Another kind of sneakier one is, this one is so fun. You'll love this, Morgana, because I love to act her out a little bit so we can get into our drama background. But so this is the overly optimistic partying cheerleader archetype. Okay. She is super duper tricky. So she goes like this. I'm going to do a little cheer for you all. Here we go. Okay. I am the overly optimistic partying cheerleader. I want to help you overeat, overspend, over whatever. Also, you don't have to F-E-E-L, feel anything. Right? So she's that one inside of you that will cheerlead you right off
over the cliff.
She's like, everything's fine. What are you talking about? Super sneaky. And then we have ones that are more overtly mean, like the inner comparison queen or comparison king archetype, that can actually show up in two ways. She can show up as comparing your worst to everyone else's best, which is more common, right? And gosh, social media is so primed for this. You go on your Facebook feed and, there's the pictures of the beautiful families and, you're on Morgana's feed and you see her getting married in yet another location and you're there alone and you're, whatever's going on for you. And then there's, someone else that you start comparing yourself to, and then you feel like crap about yourself. But then there's also the flip side of the comparison queen. And this one's really tricky because she can compare your best to everyone else's worst so that you feel like you are superior all the time. And that is one, sometimes people will say, no, that's my inner wisdom. That's my self-esteem. What are you talking about, Amy? And I'm like, actually, no, she's the one that has you never feeling vulnerable or intimate with anyone.
I'm starting to sense a pattern.
Do tell.
Why do these inner mean girls exist? Because it sounds like they're there for a reason.
They are totally there for a reason. And this is one of the reasons why we can't kill them off, right? We can't kill them off and we shouldn't kill them off. They are there for us to stay in the status quo, for us to stay in our comfort zones. It's really when you look at the brain science behind it, it's about, our brains want things to stay the same. They want homeostasis. They want things to be the same all the time. And so part of the development of the inner critic, which feeds into the ego and all of that stuff, it's about keeping you in your comfort zones, even if they're excruciating, about keeping you safe. And that's one of the things that we really do for, in Inner Mean Girl Reform School and in the book, is we really look at what is the benefit? What's the payoff of that inner mean girl? Yeah.
Thank you. Because I'm hearing you talk about, and I have everyone that you name, and I kind of see them as like Team Protect Morgana.
Yes.
Really feeling my deepest feelings of not good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got like this like crack team trying to figure out how to protect Morgana and feel in control of the world by telling me what I'm doing wrong or telling me how much better I am or everything's okay, blah, 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 blah. Don't pay attention, just all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting because whenever I have a client that comes to me and is under, we call it inner mean girl attack, my first question is like, ooh, so what's the breakthrough that's going on for you? What's new? Like, what's happening? What's the growth edge? And it's like, I'm celebrating because I'm like, wow, you must really be growing right now. Because that's the time when our inner mean girls and our inner mean dudes, inner bullies for you guys out there, that's when they come up the most, is when we're on the precipice of experiencing a huge growth experience. And so there's a way that you can really reframe it into good growth news.
Oh, props for this. Everybody watching, this deserves like a million props. So the inner mean girl is like the flag in the sand saying treasure below.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That is so beautifully put. Yes, it's so true. And so often, the key, I always say to people, the key is to not let your inner mean girl make your decisions. Right? Because she's going to be like, abort ship, turn around. There's nothing to see here. We're taking the flag out immediately. But, so you really have to have that inner wisdom led life. That's what I'm always going for, whether in my business or with my kids or in my relationships. It's like really allowing that inner wisdom voice to come in and allow you to really be led by that and be directed by that.
But I bet that some of these inner mean girls, since they've been with you your whole life and they know you really, really well, I bet some of them can sound very persuasive. So how do you tell the difference?
Yes, it's the most common question that I get. So, because it really is like, on one hand, you have the voice of these inner mean girls or inner mean girl that's saying something to you. And then on the other hand, you have this voice of your inner wisdom, that voice of truth that is within you, the voice that is always unconditionally loving and compassionate with you, even when she is delivering a hardcore, tough love truth. Like, honey, put the cookie down, put the drink down, get out of this relationship, right? She'll tell you she's the voice of truth, but she's going to do it with so much compassion and so much love. So it's like you start to feel a little schizophrenic. You're like, which voice am I listening to at which time? And so here's the thing. This is so crazy simple, but so important. Go to how it feels in your body. So can we actually do a little experience right now with that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. So I'm going to invite everyone that's listening, whether you're watching us on video or on iTunes listening to this, if it's safe to do so and you're not operating heavy machinery, go ahead and just close your eyes for a moment. Take a breath. You might even want to roll your neck and your shoulders for a minute and just kind of settle in for a moment. And I want you to bring up an area of your life where you're being a little bit hard on yourself right now. An area where you might be putting a lot of pressure on yourself, a situation, a challenging situation. It might be about how your body looks or how your bank account looks or what's going on in the bedroom with your lover, like whatever it is for you. Just bring up that area where you're feeling a little hard on yourself. And I want you to just turn up the volume of that inner mean girl for a moment and just let her rant. Let that inner critic say whatever it is that he or she needs to say about it. And as you hear that voice in your head, it might be saying, you're never going to get this figured out. Who do you think you are? You're such a loser. You're a failure. I mean, they really go there when you tune into them. And guess what? Anytime you're feeling any negative emotion, they're right there with a megaphone, I can assure you. And just notice how that feels in your body when you beat yourself up. And I know for me, I'm feeling like some tightness in my chest and like butterflies in my stomach. What are you feeling, Morgana?
Yeah, there's like a band from one shoulder to the next, and it's encompassing my heart. And it feels heavy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I often will say a very technical term when my inner mean girl's speaking, I feel spinny. It's like this spin in my head, and I feel like the racing thoughts, and I can't get ahead of them and I can't stop them. And so just noticing what it feels like in your body. And then I want you to just imagine going ahead and wiping that slate clean and taking a deep breath. I want you to just tune in now to an area of your life. Yeah, and just continue breathing while I'm speaking here. An area of your life where you're like, I got this. Like you're feeling that sense of confidence. Maybe it's about work, or maybe you're feeling really healthy in your body. Like you are feeling lined up. And just notice going ahead and kind of tuning into that inner wisdom voice that's like, you got this. Everything is okay. All is well. And just notice the feeling in your physical body when you tune into that. And if you're having any trouble tuning in, you may just want to literally change directions of where you're looking. Sometimes a physical movement can kind of help turn the other cheek, so to speak. And just tuning in. And I know for me, when my inner wisdom speaks to me, I feel this sense of groundedness. And I feel this sense of like kerplunk in my belly. It feels warm. Sometimes I even get hot hands when my inner wisdom is speaking to me. What are you feeling, Morgana?
It's funny because I'm rubbing my hands on my legs and It, I checked in with my money honey, because that's kind of
Yes, I love your money honey. Yeah.
And he said, we've got this, we're partnering. And I suddenly felt like this flush of happiness. And yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. So when you're ready, you can go ahead and kind of wiggle your fingers and your toes and open your eyes. Our bodies are so brilliant and so wise, and are often one of the most overlooked vehicles for us. And so I just highly recommend for everyone listening as a little inspiring field trip, as we call it at Inner Mean Girl Reform School, because it's homework. You want to go on a field trip, as a little inspiring field trip, start noticing when those different voices are speaking to you, how things feel in your body. And you'll start to really be able to tune in to know, oh, that's my inner mean girl telling me to do this. This is my inner wisdom guiding me to do this. So use your body. It's a brilliant tool.
Oh, our brains are so smart.
Yes.
And they can justify anything, great ideas and really, really bad ideas. And what I love about our bodies is our bodies just tell the truth.
I love it. Yeah, it's so true. And I feel like it really takes each of us just taking a moment to tune in, because we want to just keep running on our brains and go. And we live in such a time where we're all so busy and where we feel like, oh my gosh, there's so much to be done. And it really is about knowing how to come to peace with the undone things. Knowing how to come to peace with the to-do list that is not completely checked off. And for me, especially since becoming a mom, like running a business, having 2 kids, it's like, I'm like, wow. I used to be so on top of it. And I've got to tell you, I am so not on top of it. And so I can either beat myself up about that, or I can really find that place of compassion and love for myself and saying, I'm doing the best that I can. And if the dishes aren't getting done in the sink so that I can go and rock my baby to sleep, so be it.
Well, you know that I've gotten married a lot of times in a short amount of time. Like, we're coming on the 2-year anniversary of our first wedding next month.
Love it.
And
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. I am too. And for anybody who's mean girl or boy is beating yourself up, I was a spinster with a solid rock star track record of 100% romantic failure until I met him at 45 and a half. So, it can happen at any time.
I love that. Well, and I'll just say something about that, Morgana, because, first of all, I would just say reframing it as not failing, but as preparation. Like, all of those quote unquote failed relationships were preparation for you to meet your now husband.
We were ready for each other. I learned from every other relationship, motivated me to learn what I needed to learn to be the right person for him.
Yes.
If we had met 20 years ago, he would have been a disaster for me and I for him. So no, I say that with incredible love and gratitude in retrospect. At the time, it kind of sucked.
Yeah. For sure. Well, and there's an inner mean girl archetype called the Rejection Queen. And the Rejection Queen is one, this is one of the most brutal ones out there for a lot of people. And I always say that whenever I picture the Rejection Queen, I picture her with a martini in one hand and a cigarette in the other. And she's like, you'll never be loved, kid. You'll never be loved. You're unlovable. You're damaged goods. Who's ever going to love you, And, I am part of the joy and the fun of drawing your inner mean girl and, giving her voice and even drawing a caricature of her is so that you can see the absurdity of it. But underneath that, the pain of having a voice in your head telling you all the time that you're unlovable. And then the thing that's crazy is that then I've seen so many of my clients and students then let, their Rejection Queen be the one that creates their Match.com profile. Or, she's the one that's choosing the dates. Because here's the thing about the inner mean girl. When she has a theory like you're unlovable or you're a failure or the only reason people love you is because you're achieving or you need to be a good girl, be nice, whatever that theory is. And I'd invite everyone, like, what's the overriding theory, the story that your inner mean girl is collecting evidence of? Because left to her own devices, she goes around and she collects evidence to prove her case. You're just unlovable. See, here's another jerk that's not loving you. And so it really is about taking the power back inside your brain, inside your mind, inside every cell of your being to say, actually, I'm going to work on a new story called I am more than lovable. I am more than enough. I am an absolute success. People love me for who I am, not for what I do or what I accomplish. Finding those stories within you and allowing your inner wisdom to really guide you to that new theory and then have your inner wisdom collect evidence. That's where the good stuff comes in.
And she can show up not just in romance, but with clients and strangers and all that kind of stuff. And I brought up the marriage thing because, you're talking about trying to be, this empire builder while having a family. And I don't have the 2 small kids, but just marrying and partnering with somebody shifted the whole center of gravity in my life. And I don't have the same kind of fire in my belly professionally that I did a couple of years ago. And I've got a whole but you should, that kind of thing.
Girl racket coming up about that.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that as our lives become fuller, whether it's bringing in a romantic partner or having a new puppy and all these amazing 4-legged souls that we have in our lives, my beloved Batman, or children or whatever it is, it's like really coming to ourselves with so much compassion and so much love that it's like loving yourself through that and saying, wow, and knowing what's really important here. On your deathbed, are you going to be regretting not building a bigger empire? Or would you rather spend that time with your honey?
Yeah.
And then also unraveling the story of, do you have to choose? What would it be like to build a bigger empire and bring on more team that could support that happening? I don't know. These are all the questions that I'm always asking myself too. Because it really, I want all of us, I want you, I want me, I want all of us to really live a life that's in alignment with our core values and what's really important to us.
Well, I know you have a 3-step process and we're going to get to that in a second. So everybody stay tuned on the edge of your seat. But you just said something that really grabbed me about, it being a false choice either or. You and I both lead retreats, and I'm going to ask you about yours. And I'm leading my Money Goddess retreat in Bali in a few weeks. And this year, I'm dragging my husband with me for that week ahead of the retreat. I go a week ahead of time, and I just didn't want to go alone.
I love it.
Yeah.
So awesome, right? And so it's like all of a sudden the question, instead of, oh, I'm going to go work and do this, what would it be like for me to be away from my husband, becomes, how can we create it so that we get to go amazing places every year and travel together? And I'm also bringing in abundance. And then as in your work, Morgana, then saying, money, honey, how can we make this happen? What do we need to do to make this happen? And going into that inner wisdom, your money, honey, all of these different places of wisdom within us to really go for the magic of what we want, which is what this is all about, right?
Yes. So what is the wake-up call 3-step process?
Yes. Okay. So this 3-step process is something that over the last 16 years of doing all this coaching work that I've really distilled down. I wanted to create a step-by-step process that was super duper simple, but also really powerful. And so, and I'll tell you, actually on my website, I have this incredible video of this young woman named T who did this in front of a couple hundred people at an event I was speaking at. And it brought everybody to tears. It was so powerful. So you can check that out on my website, which we'll give out, I'm sure, later. But okay. So step 1, you're feeling any sort of negative emotion, whether it's, you're mildly annoyed to feeling incredibly pissed off and enraged about something. Step 1, and this can feel counterintuitive, but step 1 is to ask, what is my inner mean girl saying? What is my inner critic saying? and let the inner mean girl rant. Let her just go off. And so often people want to resist that. They're saying, what I focus on grows, Amy. I don't want to talk about that. Well, here's the thing, right? You know this. It's like, if we don't actually clear that out first, then we are not like what we resist persists. And if you're feeling a negative emotion, there is some sort of story, there's some sort of big fat lie that your inner mean girl is saying to you. So what does my inner mean girl say? Let her rant. And just like a little tantruming 2-year-old, and believe me, I have a 2-year-old at home, so I know how this goes. Eventually, there's a moment where the tantrum starts to go to an end. And where that being, that inner mean girl, feels heard.
Yay.
And yes. And sometimes people will write this out with like a big red marker and write it out if they're alone. I often, for whatever reasons, when I go on my runs and hikes, my inner mean girl likes to join me and start like my mind going crazy. So I'll just like run and just let her do it in my head. You can also, in my retreats and when I'm working live with people, I do this in partnerships, super powerful. So then after your inner mean girl has had her say, then and only then do you close your eyes, step 2 here, take a deep breath and ask, what does my inner wisdom know? What does my inner wisdom know? And I have asked this question tens of thousands of times now over these last few years, and I am blown away with what happens, the magic that occurs when we ask a question. And asking this question over and over, I mean, everybody's so brilliant. We have the brilliance inside of us. We have the answers inside of us. So what does my inner wisdom know? And then step 3 is for you then to find some sort of physical movement. This is a neuro-linguistic programming technique, an NLP technique, so that you can really lock in that learning and cement it in. And so you do some sort of small movement. For me, I usually just tap on my heart a little bit, whatever works for you. And you repeat back out loud, if you can, your inner wisdom's truth. So step 1, what is my inner mean girl saying? Once she's done ranting, take a deep breath, close your eyes. What does my inner wisdom know? That's step 2. And step 3 is to repeat it back out loud while doing a physical gesture or movement.
Oh, fabulous.
That's a 3-step process. Yeah.
Beautiful. So you're getting, yes. Yeah, I'm also an NLP, neuro-linguistic girl. So yeah, you're getting it locked in with many channels.
Yes.
That is so brilliant on so many levels. And yeah, that whole law of attraction thing, it has some good stuff, but it also has a lot of inner mean girl. Ooh, you better not have, bad you're having a bad feeling.
Yeah, I mean, we could do a whole show about that for sure. Yeah, I mean, I feel like anytime shaming yourself and blaming yourself is coming into play is a sign that you are off track, is a sign that your inner mean girls have taken over, you are under siege, you are under attack. And it does not mean that you're going to make things worse. It just means that it's time to pause and process that. Mm-hmm. This is the human experience. And I mean, we have to know, like in our brains, we have these negativity bias in our brains. Our brains are actually wired to look for what's going wrong in our lives. So
for safety.
Yeah, for safety. Exactly. And so it feels like, you miss the tax deadline, which, just happened last night for, I'm sure, a lot of people. And it's like you miss a tax deadline and you feel like you're going to die. Like your brain is responding as if you are going to die. A tiger is coming to eat you. That's just how our brains work. And so not shaming ourselves for how the brains work, but instead having tools that we can take out of our superpower tool shed to really work with those things as they come up.
Beautiful. So I'm going to ask you about your work with moms and your upcoming retreat. And also for everybody listening, Amy has an inner mean girl archetype quiz. So find out who your inner mean girls are at freeinnermeangirlquiz.com. And the link will be posted at morganaradio.com. And what is just your main website for people who want to find out more about you, Amy?
Yeah, it's wakeupcallcoach.com. Wakeupcallcoach.com. Easy to spell, easy to say.
We will post that too. So
thank you.
So what's going on with moms and your upcoming Mama Truth Hawaii retreat?
Oh, thank you for asking. I'm so excited. I just released this sacred invitation to come with me to Hawaii with a small group of soulful mamas so that we can really drop the juggling, stop being pulled in a gazillion different directions, and really sink into being with ourselves and being with each other. We're going to swim with wild dolphins. We're going to do sacred release ritual with Pele and take advantage of the volcano there. We're going to do so many magical things. And it's happening this August. You can check it out at mamatruthretreat.com. mamatruthretreat.com.
Awesome. Beautiful.
So excited.
And yeah, you know me, I know the value of leaving your everyday environment and the distractions so that you can, it's like a pattern interrupt so that you can see your whole life, big picture, and make changes that stick. So yay you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Morgana.
So, wow. This has been awesome through and through. Before we wrap up, again, go, find out who your inner mean girls are at the free innermeangirlquiz.com. And do you have any final word of wisdom before we sign up, Amy? Sign off.
Yeah. The thing that's just coming to me is I just want to let everyone know that's listening. One of the things that I always like to tell people is just to remind you that you matter and that your dreams matter and that it is not selfish or self-centered for you to know that you matter and for you to feel that sense of taking time out, whether it's going on retreat with Morgana or doing one of your programs that you have, or coming on the Mama Truth Hawaii retreat, or whatever it is, that you taking care of yourself has a ripple effect. And I feel like it's so important for us to be modeling that for the generations to come and to get out of thinking that we have to sacrifice and go into the land of resentment in order to make a difference. I actually think it's the opposite. And I think we're the generation that's really going to pave a new way about that. So you matter, and your self-care matters, and your self-compassion and self-love matters. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Amen. So if you thought this was brilliant, because it was, please subscribe to the Morgana Radio podcast so that you don't miss anything. Also subscribe to, what is the name of your podcast, Amy?
Mama Truth Show.
Mama Truth Show on iTunes?
Yeah, you got it.
Awesome. And the video of our crazy faces and gestures and props is posted at morganaradio.com, as well as every link posted during the show. Love, money, magic, and everything to you all. Namaste.